Can everyone hear? Yes? Great. All right, let's get started. I'll quickly just talk a little bit about UGP before we start our Q&A with Beau Hossler. So I'm Rooney. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Urban Golf Performance. We've been around since 2013 and we started up in LA. So our original location is in West LA. And now, 11 years later, we have 5 locations here in Southern California, in Carmel, Monterey, and also now in Austin, Texas, where Beau played college golf at UT. And we help any golfer improve from major winners like Lilia Vu and Colin Morikawa to complete beginners who've never touched a club before. So we have the whole spectrum of golfers from beginners to major winners, and we help them with everything under one roof. So we do golf coaching, golf fitness, golf recovery, club fitting, club building, mental coaching, and then we have a UGP Tour where we travel with now 7 or 8 PGA Tour players, help them with fitness and physio on the road. So this is the second year we host this awesome event here at UGP Orange County together with Beau and AJGA. And we thought it would be a great opportunity to spend some time with Beau and ask him some questions and maybe learn something from his experience as a player. So let's get started. I'm gonna ask Beau a couple of questions and then I'm gonna open it up and see if you have any questions for Beau. All right.
Can we start, and do we have a consensus on how the churros were? Because I didn't get to try. Nice?
They're really good.
All right, cool. All right, go ahead.
They were great. All right, let's jump straight into it. Beau, I think that most people in the room know like your success as an amateur golfer. Early on as a junior golfer, what were some of the main things that you think made you successful?
That's a good question. Well, I grew up in this area, Mission Viejo, which is where obviously you guys will be playing this week. That was my home course growing up. So I think, I know you guys played the practice round today. I'm sure some of you played last year in this event or previously. And the golf course is, I think, pretty challenging still. So anytime I go out there and shoot under par, it's a pretty good round. I think you'll find that in the tournament as well. And I think having that experience and the ability to grow up on a challenging golf course that forced me to learn how to play golf at the proper way. It was closer to what you would see in a tournament than maybe if you grew up playing a really easy golf course. So I think that's the first step. The second step, I've grew up playing different sports, but I think I basically I obviously have some talent with golf, and then was able to have access to good coaching and good, relatively good facilities to practice. And I think, honestly, growing up in Southern California, I would say it's likely the hotbed for really good junior players, and that's kind of been proven to me now with the fact that so many of the guys that I grew up with are playing on the Korn Ferry Tour, the PGA Tour, European Tour, or whatever it might be, where, if you grow up in, Wyoming or something, you might only have a couple really good players in the state. And fortunately, I felt like I was able to compare myself pretty accurately to some players that were some of the best locally, but because of kind of the saturation of good players in the area, those were some of the best players in the country as well. So you certainly don't realize it at your age when you're playing in junior events and that, but you'll see a lot of the same kids playing in these junior events as you'll see in college, and then so many will progress and play professionally. So you guys are fortunate to play in this area where there's going to be we have good weather and good golf courses. You're going to have really good competition, and I think that was something that I was really lucky to have. And because I was never able to really dominate, I always was pressed to keep getting better. because the competition was stiff.
That's awesome. If you could go back and talk to your 14-year-old self, what advice would you give 14-year-old Beau?
That's a good question too. Who gave you these? I think for me, I was hard on myself, and I know all you guys are, and I know a lot of the parents are. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. This tournament does not mean anything. Meaning, you look back from where I am now, I couldn't tell you where I finished in pretty much any tournament. But I am where I am because of those experiences. And so I try and remind myself now with what I'm doing. Obviously, it's my livelihood and my career, but at the end of the day, I probably couldn't tell you how I finished in whatever PGA Tour event 3 years ago. The fact is they're all experiences that help you to grow. So as best as you can, show up, be prepared to play, be prepared to win, compete as hard as you can. But success or failure, I think at the end of the day, you try and use them all as learning experiences as best you can, and try and just keep getting better and understand that, we're all really lucky to play golf where hopefully we all can play to a really old age. And likely you can play competitively to a pretty old age, the oldest of any maiden sport. Yeah. And so you're going to play so many competitive rounds, so many tournaments, and as best you can, try not to let it bring you down, and try to make sure, like I said, whether you win or finish last this week, try to just assess and grow from where you're at. And I think I was really hard on myself as a kid. I wanted to win every time, which I think is a great attribute, and I think everybody should have that. But at the same time, tempering the expectation to play well every single time, and understanding that in the grand scheme of things, each week that you play is just an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself. And if you're reflective of that, I think it helps you in the long run.
Do you think that means that maybe focusing more on long term is more beneficial than short term? Like, what does my next, this summer look like in terms of my junior tournaments versus how's my next 5 years look, and what's the plan? Is that really important, you think?
I think so. I think, everybody has the perfect plan of what they want to happen, but I can tell you that not for one player ever has it been smooth sailing every single step of the way. And I think most players that I've talked to that have had enormous success in their careers have felt like they've grown the most from when they've gotten off of that plan, and they've struggled and have taken steps back like we all do. Because it forces you to be realistic with yourself and then figure out a way to get better. You want to have aspirations and goals, but I think the best thing you can do is to have goals that are about your process in the present, and then seeing what that's going to look like, shortly down the road, and then trying to just assess as accurate as you can along the road.
Basically being less tied to outcomes and more focused on the process, because the process is actually going to lead to better outcomes.
That's my opinion, yeah.
Did you play or practice more as a junior? What do you think is most important for a junior golfer?
I think, it's to be fair, it's a different world now of golf than when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. Like, I had never even heard of a TrackMan. I mean, that wasn't a thing. And so, I would go hit mediocre, crappy range balls that wouldn't really give me much feedback. So as best I could, when the evening, I was really lucky to play at Mission Viejo, so it was a private club, and I was able to in the evening go and take my own golf balls on the course, and play for a score every so often, but mainly just hit golf shots on the course and try and replicate tournament conditions as accurately as possible. Not that it's perfect, but I think, nowadays in golf at my level, I've certainly been, I've made this mistake often, is, you get stuck on the range, or stuck on the putting green, or stuck on the chipping green. At the end of the day, you're all about to go play a tournament and the only judge of the outcome is going to be the score you put on the scorecard. And so there's so many elements that go into that you aren't going to see on a TrackMan, that you're not going to see on who's hitting it the best on the range or putting stroke is the prettiest. It's going to be the person that gets the ball in the hole the fastest. So don't lose sight of that. I think it's easy to do. We've all been, guilty of doing it. And I have to remind myself as well, because we want to be perfect, and that's kind of the world we live in now, where everything feels like it has to be perfect. But the best players, in my experience, are the guys that are able to score when they're not perfect. And I would say learning how to play the game, giving yourself the most experience playing the game, finishing holes out, getting up and down from places that you probably shouldn't be, learning how to strategize on days that you're not playing very well. It's incredibly important, because you guys can all shoot scores when your game is on, but the players that you'll see have enormous success, especially on a consistent basis, are able to take their average and mediocre days and turn them into pretty good days.
What was when you were working on your game and practicing and playing a lot growing up, what was your why? What was your drive? Like, why were you motivated, and what kept you going?
I wanted to win, and still do.
Competitive spirit.
Yeah, I'm very competitive. And the interesting thing about golf is you're competitive with each other, you're competitive with the golf course, and you're competitive with yourself. So you're never going to lack in that department. It's a game that's clearly not perfectible. It's very challenging. You never run out of things that you can be better at. And I think the main thing was, having grown up playing some team sports, and that to have everything on your shoulders and riding on your performance was pretty much the best motivation you could get to work your butt off. So I never had any issue in that department.
You've always been a great putter, and the last couple of years on the PGA Tour, you've been among the best putters in the world. Is there one tip that you could give these players to work on their putting?
The best tip I could give you is, once you can start the ball on line, stop hitting 4-foot straight putts and move around the green, hit different putts. Once I'm done with kind of my drill that I do to calibrate like my alignment and stuff, I putt with one ball and I line up every putt, because I don't ever want to hit a putt on the putting green that is not as closely simulated to what I'll see on the golf course as possible. And I see a lot of players stand on whatever putting drill for hours on end, hitting hundreds and hundreds of putts through the gate or whatever, hitting perfect putts, and then they go on the course and they don't make anything, because there's a lot of elements to putting rather than just hitting a perfect 4-foot straight putt. So don't get too caught up in that. If your mechanics are good enough to start the ball on line, work on your speed, work on your green reading, work on making the ball go into the hole and learning how that works for you, because it's different for every player.
Great advice. We have some parents here. Do you have any advice for parents?
Do I have advice? I have too much advice for parents.
Let's hear it.
My advice for parents, yes. Please understand that your kids' golf and their success is their own. They care, I promise, a lot. Some parents go really overboard on putting pressure on their kids, and I don't think it serves a purpose, frankly. I've seen that help some kids, and I've seen it significantly hurt way more kids than that. And I saw it when I was a kid. I've seen it. Leo would agree. You see it with some parents of players on the PGA Tour, and it's shocking. And I think that we all, as competitive athletes, want to do the best that we can and have all the motivation in the world to do that. And I think just being a really good resource for support, particularly when things are going in a bad way, is a huge, huge thing. And it's really nice to feel like you're playing for yourself, and that whatever you do, as long as you prepare the best that you can, give the best effort you can, is adequate. Whether the scorecard is high or low that day, if the effort is there, that should be plenty to be proud of. And I think that's really important to understand, is that, like the first thing I said, this tournament in the long run does not mean anything. And so try to keep the best perspective you can about the fact that this is an opportunity to challenge yourself and to grow, and to view it as that. And it's not the be all and end all. I can tell you this, there are some players on the PGA Tour that when they were 15, 16 years old, couldn't even sniff getting into this tournament. And there's other players that would play a tournament like this and win by 8 or 9 shots, and you've never heard their name. So don't put too much on it. Understand that you're going to play literally hundreds of tournaments in your life, and likely thousands of competitive rounds if you stick with it. And just realize that the players, they care as much as they can.
It's great advice. Yeah, and I think you see this too, is like you see what you mentioned about the game in general. You can play for so long that there's time, and you see a lot of great players out there winning golf tournaments at the highest level that were late bloomers, or they didn't have it all as a junior or even in college.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that long-term mindset might be beneficial for most people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, before we open it up for questions, you've been training with us here at UGP for the last 3 years or so. And you've been investing more in the fitness, and you travel with the physio as well. Is there anything on the fitness and physio side that you would want to say to these players?
Yeah, similar to what I was saying earlier, it's a different time now than I think even. Gosh, it makes me feel old. I guess I would have been in your shoes like 12, 15 years ago. It's tough. Yeah. But that wasn't really, places like this didn't really exist. I'm sure that there were some PGA Tour players that were, adamant about their health and their well-being and their fitness and performance and stuff, but it was limited. A handful maybe. Yeah. And now it's effectively every player, whether they have a dedicated team to it or they do it on their own. The fact is they're certainly conscious of it. Yeah. I would certainly be, if I could give myself advice if I was in your shoes, especially now with the access that you guys have to information, I would just really try and be as forward on my health as possible. I know, not many 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids get that hurt, but a lot of 35 and 40-year-old people do because of what they did at your age till they were that age. And so just create good habits. You don't have to be perfect by any means. You're a kid, you should live and enjoy yourself, but I certainly would advise you to learn about the foods you're eating, learn about the body, learn about your body, and if that means just getting an opinion from someone every so often as a checkup to see, where your strengths and weaknesses are on a performance, health, and fitness profile. I think even just a couple times a year or once a year, just to take a checkup and understand, kind of what direction you need to go and things you need to be careful of, and certainly be conscious of the things that you're putting in your body, because one day, I guess you'll be my age and you'll be 29 and you'll feel old, and then you'll realize that you're not that old compared to some other people. So I gotta keep my body in shape to compete for another 20 plus years. And I think I do a good job of it now, but certainly I didn't do any of it at your age. And like I said, I guess part of that is cultural. There's certainly a culture now to where you're seeing that from the top players in the world, where clearly they're making that very conscious, and a lot of them are priorities. So, like I said, it's baby steps. I think if you can start now and begin to learn about yourself and your health and your performance and your fitness and build on that and create good habits in the long term, I think that's kind of the main thing.
Yeah, totally agree. Right now you have what we call magic and rubber. Basically, it's hard to get injured, and if you get injured, you heal very quickly. But that changes when you come up college, 23, 24, 25. So just like Beau said, the foundation that you set now can set you up for success or failure physically when you enter your 20s and mid-20s. And it quickly declines unless we really train our bodies and prepare them to perform for a long time, because golf is extremely taxing on the body, and it's not the most natural movement in all sports, and so we have to make sure that we stay balanced and strong throughout the years. So let's open it up. We'll probably have time for a couple of questions, so hands up, anybody that want to ask Beau a question.
So how does your fitness and recovery routine kind of change when you're on the road, maybe at a tournament, and when you're back home and have some time off?
That's a good question. For anyone that didn't hear, the question was, how does my fitness and recovery change from when I'm at home versus on the road? Basically, it's personal preference. I don't love to work out a lot on the road. With that being said, I have a physical therapist that I see for well over an hour a day, that I do chiro, soft tissue, stretching, and then some stability and strengthening things. On the other hand, Leo can tell you about some players that UGP works with on the road that actually does legitimate workouts almost daily. I'd say it's more preference. When I come in here, Marcus is my trainer. Whenever I'm home, I would say I see him just about every day, and we come and do a real workout. And then I'll see Corey in here and get worked on with my body. But yeah, I'm certainly on the program where I don't like to play sore. I also have a pretty strenuous preparation for the actual golf when I'm at a tournament, and I really value my sleep and my rest. So for me, as far as priority, that takes priority of taking care of my body, making sure I'm in good health and feeling good. And then when I get back home is when I try and be more adamant about actually strengthening and getting in the gym.
Other questions? Hand up. Yep.
Yeah, so for these guys and girls, what does your college selection process look like, and kind of what went into your decision on what you valued most out of the college you were looking at, and what's some advice you'd have for them on some of the most important things to value? Not just the best schools out there, but some things that you look for in a college when you're choosing.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's an interesting process. I'm not particularly, educated on how it is now relative to when I was in your shoes, but certainly there were some kids being recruited at especially looking back on it, a shockingly young age. I think if I could give myself advice, I would try and go and see as many places as I could, close to home and far. Good programs and maybe ones that are up and coming. I would try and be as diverse as I could, and I probably should have done that more. I've still visited 6 or 7 schools, but it's funny. I'm sure the recruiting rules are so different. The coaches couldn't contact us, so I had to pick up the phone myself and call them, and I did that, and frankly, I think it was probably a good thing. That's a difficult thing for a kid to do, and it's just such a different world. I mean, you see kids transferring all the time now, and it's just it's a very different world. I would try and just learn as much as you can. Talk to former players, especially as recently as possible, about their experience. They're likely going to tell you the truth. And make sure that the fit with the coach is what you want. Some players really want guidance on the golf course, and other players want guidance off the golf course. I was way more looking for guidance off the golf course, and so my coach at Texas, John Fields, was that. He never tried to influence my golf technique or anything like that. I could always be honest with him, tell him exactly how I felt, and he valued my opinion. I felt like the relationship was, it was as good as it could possibly be, and I'm really fortunate to the point where I literally talk to him probably once a week still, and I've been out of college for, 8 or 9 years. That's the type of people you want to be around. You want to be around good players. You want to be challenged. You don't want to show up the first day or freshman year in college and be the best player on your team. You want to show up and have to work hard and grow and learn and be in an environment that's, encouraging you to be better. And I would, looking back, I think, the most important thing that you can do in your life is to surround yourself with great people. And I think that starts, for me in college, that was a huge step. I was really fortunate to play with a lot of really good players, 4 or 5 of which are on the PGA Tour with me now. Some of which have won major championships, and to be in that environment challenged me every single day to get better, and don't take that lightly. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I just want to quickly add to that. Every time you ask a player, about their college experience, a lot of times the coach comes up very early in that conversation. And so, hearing from our tour players and even my own experience as a college player, making sure that you're a good match with the coach is maybe one of the most important parts of being part of a college team, because sometimes the coach is a coach that will stand there and watch you and get pissed if you 3-putt and you being out there scared. Unfortunately, that's still, common in college golf. So you want to make sure that you find a school where you feel like the coach is really supportive and that you align with when it comes to how the team is being coached.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And Coach Fields is just an incredible coach in that way. And so definitely make sure you get enough time with the actual coach and talk to him and ask those questions. Do we have any more questions? Yeah.
You mentioned rehearsing tournament shots on the putting green and on the ring. How do you emulate the pressure that you feel at a tournament?
It's a good question. You can't. So guess what? Learn from the tournaments. Put yourself in those positions as often as you can. If there was a way to do that, man, we would all do it, right? But that's the great part, is you have such a long career ahead of yourself. Recognize that when you feel that way, you're not going to be comfortable the first time. There's a chance you don't perform particularly well the first time, but the more and more you get in that situation, the more comfortable you'll feel, and likely the better you'll perform, and you'll start to look forward to feeling nerves and understanding that just because you're nervous doesn't mean you're performing poorly. So many unbelievable athletes will tell you that they actually perform better when they're nervous. So don't be scared of that. Embrace it. Understand that that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to perform poorly. It's just, it's important to you and it's meaningful to you, and embrace it.
Yeah, leaning into it. And something that I've learned working with great players like Beau is that, everyone is nervous. And sometimes it can feel maybe like you're more nervous than everyone else, but that's rarely the case. Even the best get nervous.
Yeah, and you even, you'll see an interview with a player, and the interviewer will say, "Oh man, you look so calm." Every time, like, well, I wasn't. So embrace it, enjoy it, and know that when you're feeling that way, that you're doing something right. You're in a great place.
Pressure is privilege.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's do one more.
Last one.
Okay.
So you played AJGA, and most of these kids obviously all do too. Just talk us through some of your favorite times that you had as a junior. Just let us know.
I was really lucky to grow up here where I could play in these tournaments locally. I played in some junior all-star tournaments. I guess at the time, I think you could play in those when you were 13. Is that right?
Well,
Okay. And so I would have had 17, probably 5 full years playing in the AJGA. And, I played in junior all-star tournaments, I played in open tournaments, and then I, performed well enough at times to play in the invitationals. And, man, it's a great question because it really is. If you ever have time, go back and look at these type of tournaments from 10 years ago, and you'll see so many names that you see playing in PGA Tour events. And to think about competing with those guys when we were, realistically 11 to 18 years old was, you don't realize at the time, but you're really, really fortunate to do that. So I was lucky to have that very often. I had supportive parents that allowed me to compete really as often as I wanted, which was pretty much every week during the summer. So I think being able to live in a way a tour lifestyle at that age is a really, really cool thing. And you're really lucky to be able to do it. And you're fortunate that your parents have given you the opportunity to do it. And recognize that, the commitment to you doing this is so much more than just yourself. Your parents are supportive. You obviously have some level of support from an instructor or a coach or a mentor or something like that. And to look back and realize that I had that type of support system in place when I was a kid, and then that's just continued to grow. And as I was saying earlier, I'm so fortunate to be around great people and understand that you are around great people with the players that you're playing against, the staff with the AJGA. I mean, I still have relationships with people that were doing what you're doing now, 15 whatever years later. Some of which have gone on and worked at the PGA Tour and rules officials, etc. It's pretty wild. So, be appreciative of the people that make this happen. It doesn't just, you don't just show up to the golf course and play and make a tee time. There's a lot of people that put a lot of effort into this, and I'm very appreciative to have ever had that opportunity. And I know that you guys are, I'm sure that the tournaments that you guys are playing in now are even bigger and better than what I had. So just enjoy it, appreciate it, take it for what it is, and like I said, enjoy the experience, but try and grow from it as well. Looking back, I mean, man, I don't know, I probably played, 50 AJGA tournaments or something like that. And someone actually asked me today, like, oh, do you miss them? Like, yeah, it was a totally different vibe than what we have on tour. It's really cool. It's really cool to play at that age when golf truly is like a competition and a game. And now obviously you watch TV and all you hear about is money and whatever. And it's like, man, like you guys play for like the pureness of what we all should play for. And I try to keep that perspective now. But
how many did you win?
I don't know. You probably have a better answer. I would say I definitely won, I don't know, 2 to 5 of them if I had to guess. I couldn't tell you. Again, to my point earlier, I don't know. And frankly, it doesn't matter. I am where I am, right? Whether I've ever played in these or not, the fact is I am where I am. You guys are where you are now, and just try and keep plugging along.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Beau. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
If you have any questions about, UGP or what we do here, feel free to ask any one of us. I'll be here as well. So if you have any questions, don't be shy, and good luck this week. Play well, and remember the wise words of Beau Hossler.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.